So I started off like I said, as a janitor, just making $10 an hour, and I was still in school. I had a baby on the way, and I was living with other people. So you can imagine like a two-bedroom house with 6, 7 people inside the house. And it's uncomfortable. I got up one day and saved up $10,000, and I bought my first home. I haven't scaled up the quality of my life much, even though I've made more. But that second home was like my true first like investment property, and that home today is probably worth about 180,000. So you can imagine purchasing something for 2,500 and looking today, and it's worth 180,000. But I know it sounds bizarre, and I can explain why. It's just I wasn't in the game originally to make money. It's just something I kind of like was just using to survive on.
What are some do's and don'ts of real estate investing that you have experienced?
What I've found is that people don't purchase the properties low enough; they overspend. And I think in a market like this, it's even easier to overspend and overcalculate repair costs and stuff.
How you can move from $10 to building an empire with properties, right?
Oh yes, that absolutely can be done. You know, it's 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 I would say it's a lot easier to do what I did in this market versus before, even if prices are cheaper because of the financing.
Welcome to Bigger Life Podcast, where we explore the journeys of entrepreneurs, investors, and people who are living in life to the fullest through smart financial moves, strategic decisions, and taking massive actions. I'm your host, Ray Bansal, and today we have a super inspiring guest joining us. Our guest today is Darius Keller, a man who literally went from making $10 an hour as a janitor to building a real estate empire worth over $1 million in rental properties in less than a decade. And what's even more impressive is how he did it. Darius didn't follow the conventional path. He took advantage of property auctions, invested in overlooked areas, and built a portfolio that's generating six figures in passive income. Darius, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you for having me.
Hey, Darius. So, Darius, for our audiences, can you talk about how your previous life before you started with real estate investing?
Yeah, so originally when I started, I was this is back in 2014. I didn't have all the resources like everybody else had, like the financial resources, the mentorship, and so I started off like I said, as a janitor, just making $10 an hour, and I was still in school. I had a baby on the way, and I was living with other people. So you can imagine like a two-bedroom house with 6, 7 people inside the house. You're limited space at that point, and it's uncomfortable. So I got up one day and saved up $10,000, and I bought my first home in an auction setting from HomePath.com for $9,100, and that's kind of like how I got started into real estate, just trying to survive and look for my own home to live in to cut costs. Essentially, I thought if I didn't have a mortgage, that it would help me save money a little bit faster, and I'll be able to pay student loans and other expenses like everyone else.
Yeah. So it's inspiring. So you were working $10 an hour. You saved $10,000 working that $10 job,
Yeah.
and then you bought your first home for $9,100.
Yes.
Awesome. So what what was the condition of that home that you bought for $9,100?
Yeah. So back then, that it was actually one of the most expensive homes on the street. I paid for. It's in Pontiac, Michigan, so like about 35 minutes outside Detroit. And the condition of the home, so it's from HomePath.com. And back then, it was like I said, it was an auction setting. A lot of people were bidding on these homes. The bidding started at $6,500, and like I said, the condition of the home was not so good. I thought the home had copper in it when I bought it. It had no copper in it. The walls were up. It was a 1928 colonial, so it had some age on it. But the exterior was in pretty decent shape. Like it had new gutters and a brand new roof, but the electrical panel was very bad. There was no furnace, no hot water tank. That was stripped out the house. Um, the bathroom was originally from 1928. It was original bathroom, which is surprising. So I had to gut the bathroom, I had to gut the kitchen, new floors. You can imagine. I spent because I did all the work myself, revamping the property. I spent probably about 27,000 in repairs fixing up that property over time, not all at once, like over time.
So it took you how long to do that? So you invested at 20, the first home at 20 in 2014. Over the period of time, you invested another $27,000 to make it livable and habitable for you. So how long was that?
I would say about 2.5 years. And the reason why it also took me long was like I was still a janitor at the time. I was just now getting into my like career job, which still I wasn't making much money when I started my career job. I was a contractor for Chrysler, making $14 an hour, and it all like I said, it also took me time because I purchased a second property for $2,500 the second year in 2015, which is a couple streets away.
You were still renovating your first place, and then you bought your second place for $2,500, right?
Yes.
Yes, awesome. So, and how beat up was this place?
So this place was in Pontiac as well. Most of my homes are in Pontiac. There was two streets away, and it was roughly a little bit over 1,100 square feet. And what I did is I saw the opportunity because before I purchased these homes, I go look at the previous mortgage. So if, for example, this $2,500 house, the previous mortgage on it was $69,000. So that's like my reference because when I'm purchasing the houses, they're in such bad condition, and the market was not that great during that time. We were still in the recovery phase from the recession, from the 2008 recession. So if you can imagine, there was many homes that were boarded up at the time. Uh, there was I call it spotty. The neighborhood values are very spotty, where you have like you go look three doors down, the house just sold for like 125K, but if you go like further down that street, the house is selling for 10K. So the neighborhood was very hard for an appraiser to come there and justify a value for the house.
Hmm. So this is what your data point is, right? So you're taking the previous mortgage as a data point to say, if the previous mortgage is $69,000, chances are that this home is going to be at least worth $69,000. Is that what you're basing it out of?
So I was thinking, okay, maybe I can at least get this home to recover a majority of the value. That's kind of like what I was thinking. But when you're buying, like I said, when you're buying it for $2,500, it's the risk is very low at that point, you know. And I was just looking. I was more so not trying to recover, but protect myself from risk.
And over time, now that let's say you invested another 20, $30,000 to rehab these homes by yourself, how has these investments panned off?
Oh, so just these we can use. So the first one I'm actually living in still today. I haven't scaled up the quality of my life much, even though I've made more. But that second home was like my true first like investment property, and that home today is probably worth about 180,000. So you can imagine purchasing something for 2,500 and looking today, and it's worth 180,000. But I know it sounds bizarre, and I can explain why. There's two things. So the laws have changed in the city of Pontiac. That's number one. And I believe what forced those laws to change is the companies that have came into the city of Pontiac. We have some really big companies that came in here. Previously, we did not have Amazon in 2014. We got Amazon. The notification for Amazon came in 2019. So Amazon's big distribution center is actually here. We have United Wholesale Mortgage, which is very big. I would say they're equivalent or bigger than Quicken Loans at this point. We got Lee's Construction, and a lot of those companies are working with the city of Pontiac to own some of the real estate and improve some of the real estate here in downtown and some of the neighborhoods and stuff. So that's why the values have really changed. I mean, overnight, as soon as the notification hit that Amazon was coming, there was like a $30,000 price swing. I mean, within 24 hours. Um, uh, so when I mean the laws have changed, the city of Pontiac has been very greedy on selling properties like open land to people, and
Hmm.
so like before you could just go buy land from the city of Pontiac, minimum $250 was the minimum bid for just an open lot to build on and stuff, right? So since then they've made it where you can purchase a lot from the city of Pontiac, but you have to have um, open. You have to have active plans to build on that land.
So you just can't buy and hold on to it. So you need to have a plan to build something on top of that.
Right, and what's even more difficult for builders now, the dimensions in between each house has changed. So the spacing is not as close anymore. You have to have more feet in between each house, which forces you to purchase not one lot but two lots, combine those lots, and then build your house. It's not as easy anymore. So back to that $2,500 house that I purchased, what I did is I started to buy the land around it, and I was able to join those lots together. So that $2,500 house is sitting on a very large amount of land inside of a city, if you can imagine, with these big companies here.
So do you knew about that law beforehand, or so? How did you thought about buying those extra lots around that $2,500 home at
Yep.
that point?
Yeah. It was just so that I didn't even know the lot was available. Just there was so many for it was so much there was so much blight during that time. And what happened is when I started to look down the street, people started buying the houses up more. So I was like, probably should inquire about purchasing this lot too and joining it before the person next door does it. And even like next door, the two houses next door were sold for 13,000 a piece. And my wife at the time, she's actually was the realtor representing those homes. So she sold one of them for 150,000, and the market still was on its way climbing.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's just a like so. Fast forward today, there's zero blight. Like the city has made a big notice to explain that there's zero boarded up homes. Like we still have some blight like with the schools, but as far as the actual single family homes in the area, there's zero blighted homes.
That's awesome turnaround for a city,
Yeah.
not alone just for you and the investors, but for our city to have zero boarded up homes in the city. I mean, that's awesome considering all the downfall that happened with the financial collapse of 2007, 2008. So what was your turning point? So because when you're investing into these homes, the market is still bad, right? Because these homes that you're buying for $2,500, $3,000, $10,000, pretty much everything is selling for that price point. So when was your aha moment to say that what I'm doing, this is a career. This is how I can make money. Because right now you don't know whether you can make money or not because everything is still into that phase.
Right. Yeah. So I still even because like you got to remember I'm like purchasing the home and learning how to repair it, learning how the financing goes. Back then, financing was a lot harder to come by. It wasn't as easy as it is today. DSCR loans, they weren't as popular as they were today. So fast forward to between 2016 and 2017. I ended up purchasing another home in Pontiac, and this home I actually spent a lot more. It was 35,000 right from auction.com, and auction. I want to say this: the auction sites were not as sophisticated as they are today than they were back then. There was not as much data to use. You couldn't go into this property. So when I mean I was buying this property blind, I literally was. I could buy. I drove down the street to look at the property before I put my bid in, and bidding for this one started at like 10,000. But this property was a 3 bed, 2 bath, like ranch style home with a big 2-car garage. So at least material wise, I knew at least the materials were worth, what I was paying in the auction. uh, and this particular home, what it did is it taught me the financing. It taught me the financing, and it taught me that because that's when I first got my like non-relative tenants. My $2,500 home, I actually had relative tenants in there, um, family members. But when I this third home, I was renting. I had to go through the open house process, the tenant prospecting. That's when things started to. I became like a true landlord at that point. Had to go through the real contract. The whole nine. But the way I got that is that got that property, got the money for that property. Is I refinanced my first home through a home equity term loan, just through just a basic 10-year loan against the property, and I purchased uh, that third property with that cash. So that's how I was able to do that. And I mean, that's when things really opened up for me. I knew that I could make money from the properties. It's just I wasn't in the game originally to make money. It's just something I kind of like was just using to survive on.
Yeah, 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 because you were still living with people, like multiple people in a two-bedroom home, as you mentioned. Yeah, so you were not looking, but you were looking a way to get out of that home, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So you bought your third home for $35,000. Then you had to rehab that, right?
Yeah, that one definitely needed repairs as well. That was more so, I would say, moderate repairs in the beginning. It's probably my most expensive home today. Uh, I'm probably all in on that one about 60,000.
Mm-hmm. So there's a huge leap of faith, that you were taking diving into these options, especially with your limited experience, or especially with your first one and the second one. And are you still buying options today, or?
Yeah, yeah. So, Justin, so my turning moment was between 2021 and 2022. I essentially doubled my portfolio during that time. That's when the market really picked up in values, and I ended up securing like nearly 300,000 in cash at the end of 2021. There. So what I did is I bought like 5 properties. One here and the last one here in Pontiac, and then an additional 4 in Flint, Michigan. A
Hmm.
lot of people know about Flint, Michigan because of the water crisis and stuff. Flint's not. Flint's very high risk. I would consider very high risk. The job market's not good there. But the cost of the properties that I was getting them were in the quality was very good. It wasn't like your Detroit house where you're buying it for 10 grand and it has no roof, no door, foundation issues. It wasn't like that. I mean, these homes were one of them I paid 35 grand for, and it was fully remodeled at the time. So you can imagine, I mean, literally fully remodeled. Another one I paid 19,000 for. It had like just about everything but a furnace and electrical panel. So I'm just trying to paint the picture there. And then shortly after 2022, there was GM announced that they were uh, investing in an EV plant, an existing EV plant out there. I think they spent, north of 250 million on just that plant alone, maybe more.
Mhm.
I think.
And
Uh,
that stabilized the market.
that really helped the market out there. It's I would say it's more speculate. There's a lot of speculation in the market that it will pick up and it will fully recover. They still have a lot of issues out there. Um, I would say that the issue that I have the most out there is a rent scalability. It's very hard to take the rent. I would say beyond $1,000.
Or like a 3-2.
Yeah, yeah,
So what's your average rental? So you got like nine properties right now?
yep. So at 9 properties, one I live in, 2 are actually just still under repair, so they're not rented, and the other 6 are and the other 6 are active rentals.
Okay, awesome. And on an average, how much rental does these properties produce per month?
Roughly about 1,500 a month.
Roughly about 1,500. Okay.
That's if you use the average of them all out.
Yeah, yeah. Some little bigger, some little small.
Yeah.
So considering how the market dynamics are changing, right? And when you first started in 2014, and now we are in 2021, sorry, 2025. Are you still looking to buy? I mean, or how's the market dynamics where you're in the markets that you operate, for good or for bad? And personally, are you still looking to buy more properties, or what's your game plan going forward?
Yeah, so I would say right now the markets are really settling. I think that's what you're asking. The markets are not climbing how they were before, what we're accustomed to, and I think that has a lot to do with the interest rates. The interest rates are, I mean, and the loan costs are nearly double from when I was refinancing properties. To give you an idea, I think on one of the properties I previously refinanced, I was spending. I think I paid about 8,400 in loan costs just for that 30-year DSCR loan. Before I was spending like maybe $3,200 in loan costs. So that things are much more expensive now. Um, and the problem with the prices of the homes mellowing out is that the rent is not going up higher. Like I would had expected the rent to be around closer to $1,800 for a single family home where I'm at in Pontiac, and
Mhm.
it just because I do the open houses, I look at the applications. It's just very difficult to justify $1,800 because these people have to be able to afford it as well. So going forward, I think the key here is to because the prices are so high going forward is to buy higher quality homes in better locations. That way, you can constantly take the rent up.
And for better locations, are you looking to move outside of Michigan or still kind of in that area?
No, no, I'm gonna keep investing in here in the Pontiac area, and the reason why I'm really pushing the Pontiac area, and I think it's because Oakland County is a very rich county in Michigan, and uh, I'm nested. I'm nested around rich cities. So like if you imagine Pontiac's like in the center, and then if you look around us, we have like Lake Orion, which is a rich city. We have West Bloomfield, Bloomfield Hills, Auburn Hills. We have so like if you're looking for a cheaper place to live for higher quality for what you're paying for, coming to Pontiac is a good alternative for people like that. And but I don't plan on leaving here because I'm kind of like monopolizing inside of Pontiac. I can pretty much pick my once you have so many rentals, you can kind of pick your rent numbers, and,
Mhm.
I can definitely see that coming the more properties that I purchase.
That makes sense. Through your journey of real estate, let's talk about the lessons learned. What are some do's and don'ts of real estate investing that you have experienced or that you would like to share with the audiences?
Yeah. So the one of the things I've seen. So I've also seen people lose on investment properties, and I've seen myself use myself as example. I've did very well in some of the rental properties, and what I've found is that people don't purchase the properties low enough. They overspend, and I think in a market like this, it's even easier to overspend and overcalculate repair costs and stuff. I would say repair costs from 2014 and now are probably about 30% more across the board. So that's definitely purchasing at a very at a safe cost and a reasonable cost is number one.
And are you still repairing the properties yourself or are you hiring crews now?
Yep, yep. So I what I do is I do just like I would say most landlords probably do like painting and themselves, like small stuff like that. Maybe install a window or a door, stuff like that, minor stuff. But if it comes like to a roof, now contract it out. Before you would catch me like doing the entire roof, but not anymore. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
Even furnaces and stuff, I contract that stuff out. It's just easier, quicker.
got it. Now I'm sure there's a story or two that you can, interesting story that you can share. So can you share some interesting or challenging stories that you had experienced in real estate?
Yeah, yeah. I'd say a new challenge story. This is new. And I'm in Michigan, so the laws are different from state to state. But uh, so I did not know that if a tenant files bankruptcy in your property while they're renting it, you can't kick them out for not paying. You can't go through the normal uh, pay or quit, notice to pay or quit process. And when a tenant's file bankruptcy, you have to get that thing called an automatic stay lifted. So yeah, so there's like a law that prevents you from removing them out of that property. Um, so you so what I did is I went and got help to confirm that automatic stay was lifted off their name, and their bankruptcy was voided out before I started the eviction process, and that took probably about almost a year. So essentially, uh, it says automatic 30-day stay, but it's actually could be longer if you have to go to court, which that forced me to go through that kind of process. And like I said, you can imagine losing rent for a year, paying for the water for a year, paying insurance, paying mortgage for a year. I lost north of $10,000 in
And
that
you
year.
have to pay for the utilities while they were in bankruptcy, and are the utilities on your or the tenant's name?
So only the water. So what I do is the way I do in my properties is that I cover the water up to $100, and then beyond that. So if the bill is $101, the tenant covers the additional $1.
Is there a reason why you're doing the water on your name and covering it up to $100? I'm just trying to understand the logic here because most landlords, they will have their tenants and get all the utilities on their name and then pay for it straightforward, unless it's in like a duplex or a quadplex situation where there's not separate meters. And in those cases, I know the landlords typically they keep the utilities on their name and then kind of rebuild the tenants just because they have to split it up so many ways. But in your situation, you are buying single family homes, and I'm just trying to understand: is there a logic that maybe something that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
missing?
yeah, yeah. So in Pontiac, the actual water bill is tied to the property. It's not tied to a human. So even if you were to go down there and get the mailing in your name, it doesn't. Even if you don't pay it, it's tied to the property. And what happens is that if it doesn't get paid, and you have a back water bill on the property, it roll to the county, and they can take the property. So it's
It's
it's,
more like
it's
property
treated like
tax.
it's treated like taxes.
Yeah, just like taxes are a lien against the property.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That explains.
But some property, and I totally I and that, so me doing the water cap kind of forces me to manage the 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 balance on the property, the water bill balance on the property. Some water bills can get. I mean, I've purchased a home with a back water bill that was like $9,000. So in
Hmm.
auction, so water bills can get real high before they take the property.
Yep, makes sense. Well, you have clearly been through a lot, but it's inspiring to see how you have overcome your obstacles. Before we wrap up, can you share with people how, if they would like to connect with you or learn more about your journey, or or want to learn from you? So, what would be a good way to connect with you?
Yep. You can go to rewithed.com. That's my website. I still use it today. People can do a one-on-one consultation call. You can also reach me at Instagram at Darius underscore one of one. So you spell it out Darius underscore ONE of ONE. And you can contact me there on Instagram. Those are best two places.
Well, thank you, Darius. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and your insights today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Truly inspiring. I'm sure I'm going to encourage a lot of people to take action and start building their own real estate portfolios, especially
Absolutely.
looking at how you can move from $10 to building an empire with properties, right? It
Hmm.
can be done.
Oh yes, that absolutely can be done. You know, it's it's I would say it's a lot easier to do what I did in this market versus before, even if prices are cheaper, because of the financing. The financing is more uh, friendlier than before. Especially with the DSCR loans, I can really understand now why people have so many homes with that kind of loan product.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much. And that wraps up another episode of Real Life Podcast. Make sure to subscribe, share the episode, and reach out to Darius if you are ready to take your real estate game to the next level. Keep taking action, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.